Grunt.
Welcome once again.
At least you looked around like there might have been people around.
I mean, you have to check because you have to check the windows, you have to check the doors, because anyone could be wanting to know what they know.
It's true.
And
everyone needs to.
They need to know. So we have to keep an eye out for other truth agents trying to horn in on our turf. All right, we're back again with more information for you. It's me, the agent and settler of Huey Hessen. My name is Ba.
I am the settler and agent of Matthew PA. My name is Map.
And you know what we do? We tell you about conspiracies that you might not know about. Pseudo-science, the whole 9 yards.
Mm-hmm.
It's a dreary day here in Undisclosed, where we live. And we're ready to talk to you about some stuff.
What is the title for this one?
This one is called Missing in Action. And it's really going to focus on disappearances or strange deaths, kind of people just who were missing.
Yeah.
And we're going to dive right into it. We're not, no preamble.
Okay.
No nothing. And we're going to talk to you about the first thing, which is the Elian Moore lighthouse disappearances.
Yes.
Which happened in 1900, and that's Matt's not a fan of this one.
I'm not a fan of this one. It's so old, and like if these three people disappeared 20 years ago, maybe a little bit more mysterious. But 1900,
yeah, anything could have happened.
Three people just loose on a fucking tiny island in a lighthouse, and they just disappeared.
Pretty
Shocking.
much, yeah. So what happened is in 1900, there is an island on one of the Flannan Islands off the coast of Scotland, and there is a lighthouse called the Elian Moore Lighthouse.
Mm-hmm. I think there's two or three. It's a bunch of tiny
islands, and they each have
a light. Not each. It's like there's one. I think there's three or four total in the little cluster.
Yeah,
and this is the one that's on the biggest one.
The biggest one. Yes,
it was the biggest lighthouse on the biggest island.
So basically what happened is there was this ship going by, and they noticed that the lighthouse was not functioning, even though the weather was bad. I think this was on the 15th or 16th. They couldn't get a person out there because the weather was so bad until the 26th. They get the person out there. They trying to hail them with the horn blasts. Nobody comes, and they're like, what the hell? So they go up to the lighthouse, and things are amiss. People are a-missing.
That's really it, though.
Well,
that they're missing. It's not like it. You know what I mean? Like most of the time when there's like missing people stories, it's like we walked in and like clearly they hadn't planned to be missing. You know what I mean? Or they were in the middle of something, or we found a half-eaten sandwich. It's like no, there's no food sitting out. All the dishes were put away. Nothing was out of place.
I have seen both, that there is food sitting out and then there was not food sitting out.
I listened to a guy who was like, that's a lie. He was like, that there's no truth to substantiate that there was food on the table.
The Wikipedia article did confirm that that is a myth. But
yes,
I have seen it mentioned a lot. But there was. The truth is that there were.
That's because people were like, despite, because it didn't make any sense that they would just be gone, I guess, and they had to make stuff up to be like, it is mysterious.
The things that they said were that there was an overturned chair, and that two of the three coats were missing, but not all three.
Not all three of their raincoats.
Yes, which if they had all gone out, you'd assume that they each took their raincoat, but one of them had left it behind. So
wasn't it? There was also like a reported like huge storm like 2 days before that ship came through.
That's
like
the
they
thing.
were coming through while it was bad, but there was like a really bad storm or something like 2 days before they showed up to be like, hey, this isn't on.
So what actually happened? Here's a little excerpt of an article I read, and this is supposedly pretty factual. On December 12th, the second assistant keeper, Thomas Marshall, noted that they were being barraged by powerful winds. Marshall also noticed that principal keeper James Ducat had been very distant over the past few days, and that William MacArthur, the third assistant keeper, had been crying constantly. The news that MacArthur had been crying was particularly disturbing to Moorhead, who was the guy who was doing the investigation. who knew him as being a hardened seafarer. If the storm had brought this man to tears, then it must have been one hell of a squall. However, although the logs reported storms on December 12th, 13th, and 14th, the actual weather reports in that area had the days as very calm. The log's final entry was on December 15th, and it said, "The storms ended, seas calm, God is over all." And that is the last thing they said.
I didn't hear anything about a guy crying.
Yeah, this is like evidently like in the report he was saying that the guy was like inconsolable and like
Wait, in the like logbook?
in the logbook.
Wasn't one of them was also not? He was like a replacement guy. He wasn't the normal dude that goes there.
There's a dude who rotated, and one of them was the rotating guy.
Okay.
And they brought the other rotating guy with them when they went to go check and see what was going on, and that's one of the people who went along to discover what happened. Yeah, so nobody knows where they went. There's rumors that people heard people like whispers in the wind of the replacement lighthouse people are like, they hear their names being called out in storms. And they did find a lot of like half of the island was okay, and the other half had been like devastated. Like shit was blown all over the place and destroyed, and the other half was fine because it was on the other side of the storm. But they believe that happened before they went missing. So they just hadn't had a chance to pick it up, or they were going down. One of the theories that I read that seems the most convincing is that there was just a giant wave and it washed everyone away.
Yeah. But
then they're like, why are their bodies just battered up against the, like, if you're on an island, it'll just keep pushing you towards the island. That's what it tends to do. Unless there's a riptide that pulls you out. So they theorized that they're like, why aren't they just being beaten to hell on the rocks down there? We would have found something. There's nothing. So it's weird. And then, of course, then you get the rather fantastical elements. I read that there was a ghost ship that had attacked them. There was all sorts of weird shit.
Like, wait. I just don't get it. If you know somebody's supposed to be somewhere and you go there and they're not there, like, does your mind just run wild? Like a ghost ship? Like, did a Highlander show up and kill them?
Yeah, definitely.
Could that be a theory? How about we say that? One of them was two of them turned out to be Highlanders, and they fought each other and killed each other in the rain outside.
A fun thing is that
the other guy went insane from watching it.
He's leapt from the rocks. This was actually the premise featured in a Doctor Who episode called "The Horror of Fang Rock." And so there's a Doctor Who episode about this. But yeah, there's all sorts of weird ass explanations. They're all pretty.
The one thing I watched a video with a guy who talked about. I'm sorry, it was a podcast, an interview with a guy who wrote a book about it, about the Alien Moore Island disappearances, and he was like, I went to the island. They went completely automated in like the 80s or something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He was like, so I went to go visit it, and because they're all automated now, like they could barely get off their boat because of the damage to the structures they built there. Like apparently the stairwell the stairs that went from there was a crane.
Yeah, that had fallen over.
Yeah, the crane that fell over. There was a walkway or a stone stairwell that went up the side of the mountain or the hill or whatever that the lighthouse was on, but it was carved out of the wall. And he was like 2/3 it was unusable. You know what I mean? Like, so, I don't know. It's just, they probably got washed away at sea. Like, I just don't see why this one's so... why the fuck are there people writing books about it 100 years later?
Yeah, this is a pretty low-impact conspiracy theory, but
it's like 3 people in the 1900s were on a fucking shitty little island in a storm.
And they washed
probably
away.
Trying to fix a thing that fell over and got hit by a wave. Like, I don't know. Like, that seems so simple.
I'm with you.
Easy.
But I read that there's a book about fairies going being taken into fairyland.
I was waiting for that to happen.
Yeah,
it's not Ireland, but I mean.
yeah.
The fairies.
They carried them away.
They just flew over and just took them away.
Just took them away, man. They should have been on that island. Now it's automated, so the fairy folk can prance around without fear of being
Beowulf
gaped upon by.
Like, did you read anything about aliens in this one?
Aliens abducted them.
I was gonna say that's the easiest scapegoat there is.
I mean,
it's
these
like,
days,
oh, they're just gone.
You can do anything with aliens. Aliens.
I guess in the 1900s, he wouldn't have been like.
They weren't as hot.
They weren't aliens.
Yeah, they weren't as
not
such
as we
a
understand.
fly thing to be bringing up in literally every context. So yeah, but it's this is sort of just like kind of a ponderance, like it's like the Roanoke thing. We kind of know what happened, but it's kind of weird to wonder why everybody disappeared. Like, why did they leave? But we get what happened in these situations. It was nothing crazy. The Roanoke people just went over to a different tribe. Like, they went to a tribe nearby, and they abandoned their town. And it's blown people's mind for, like, why would they do this? I mean,
I remember watching a whole, 30-minute show on the Roanoke Island thing, like on the Sci-Fi Channel in the 90s or something.
Yeah.
Before they actually figured out what happened. And you're just like,
oh, so basic.
Demons in the trees stole them.
Yeah.
Fairies, aliens.
Obviously.
The list of things they came up with is insane.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh no, they just
everything is
they couldn't cut it, so they went to live with people who could,
who had been cutting it. Yeah. So yeah, it's a simple situation. When you look at the most simple explanation is the most likely explanation. So that's really all there is about Ellie and Moore.
Yeah,
it's not
I don't understand how I listened to 2 hour-and-a-half-long interviews with a guy who wrote books about this thing.
I don't understand how there could be a book written about it. Like, I read a lot, and I still feel like every page was just telling me the same information and in slightly different digestible nuggets. So, I mean, a lot of the places that weren't Wikipedia omitted that, this was a hoax, this was clearly disproven, the food thing is garbage. But, yeah, I mean, whatever. So that one's a quick one.
Yeah, that one's whatever.
It's whatever you want it
Scotland,
to be.
get some better conspiracy
theories. Get
some
better conspiracies,
that
you
one's
bastards.
Whack.
All right, so moving on, we're going to go to the next one, which I think is a bit more interesting.
More missing people.
And for the next 2, we're gonna go right into the Soviet Union.
Well, are they missing?
Well, these guys, I would say that yes.
I would say no.
You don't think these guys are missing?
I would say that we can't say where they are, but to call them missing is a bit of a burying the lead.
A bit, but I mean, like,
you know what I mean?
If the government kidnapped somebody, they would be missing to us.
To us, yes.
So they're missing to the public, but I'm sure that somebody has, assuming this is accurate.
Yeah.
So the next thing we're going to talk about is something that's really interesting to think about, and it is the lost cosmonauts theory, which basically is I'm going to read the Wikipedia entry for this one because it has its own page just called Lost Cosmonauts. The Lost Cosmonauts, or Phantom Cosmonauts, which I feel like was a Scooby-Doo monster, are subjects of a conspiracy theory alleging that Soviet cosmonauts went to outer space before Yuri Gagarin, but their experience has never been publicly acknowledged by either the Soviet or Russian space authorities. Proponents of the Lost Cosmonaut theory argue that the Soviet Union attempted to launch 2 or more manned space flights prior to Gagarin's, and that at least 2 cosmonauts died in those attempts. Another cosmonaut, Vladimir Ilyushin, is believed to have landed off course and been held by the Chinese government. The government of the Soviet Union supposedly suppressed this information to prevent bad publicity during the height of the Cold War. So, yeah, the idea is that they launched people into space with no return plan. They're just like, oh, yeah, we're going to bring you back. They launched them like, oh, actually, we're not. Peace.
Well, from my understanding of everything I watched under this, so the first thing they sent into space, they got Sputnik up there.
Yes.
And this whole thing is just a testament to how fucking stupid the Communist Party was in Russia.
Yeah.
Because they were like, okay, we got it. We did it. We sensed that we have something orbiting in space. The whole world is going like, whoa. They could have even put a bomb up there. What the fuck? They're so much more advanced than us. Nobel Peace Prize committee goes, we're giving this. Who made that? Sputnik 1. What a great thing. Let's give them the Nobel Peace Prize. USSR goes, no one made it. It's up there. We, the country, made it, and it's up there. Don't worry about who made it. So that guy Karlyov, I forget his first name. He designed it, did all that. They were like, "Yeah, don't you dare tell anybody you made that."
Communism made that.
Yeah, communism made that. Our ideals made that. And the whole thing about like the like Marxists and like stuff is like you're supposed to be able to, because they were like, our science is based on like empirical evidence, and like we're very everything is true and right, so we are able to achieve perfection.
Yeah.
So anything that wasn't perfect, they acted like it didn't happen. And then even when stuff worked, they acted like it was magic. Like they were just like, no, we just fucking threw a ball up there and look at that.
Holy shit.
Look how great we are. We did it on our first try.
Which is a super
Not
lie.
true at all. So like the space program stuff. All right, what are their names? Achille and Giovanni Giudica Cordiglia were two brothers in Italy that when Sputnik went up, they figured out how to listen to the communications it was sending.
Yeah.
They found the frequency. And that's not it. They didn't even find it. The Russians told people what the frequency was in the like dissemination, but it was like encrypted. What it was sending was encrypted, but they told them what the frequency was, I guess. These guys would listen to it. Or maybe they did find it. I can't remember. Because they also figured they would also listen to American space stuff at the same time, but the Americans didn't release their frequencies.
Yeah.
But these guys were geniuses. They figured out what their radio frequency was by measuring the antenna on the pod that was released in the picture. When the Americans were like, we're putting our satellite up. They saw how big the antenna was, figured out what wavelength it created that would go that far.
Based on its size.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
And then we're just like, okay, well, let's listen to what they're doing. So they were like listening to everything that was going on in space, these two dudes were recording. And it's like the largest private collection of space-related anything that exists.
Yeah.
They have like tons of like magnetic tape of just recording everything they could find being sent back from space.
That's awesome.
And the first thing they find from Russia that isn't Sputnik was an SOS signal that they hear like an SOS. They know they recognize that it's an SOS signal, but they also then like they measured the degrading of the signal to figure out that like by using the Doppler effect, they could figure out where it was in around the planet.
Yeah.
And they did a couple measurements over the time of recording and realized that it was going away from the planet. Okay. It was not orbiting it. It was just sailing away. Now, but there's no recording of like a person talking, so it might have been unmanned.
Yeah.
That one, but it was definitely a ship with an SOS signal floating out into space.
Yeah, and why would
it's just gone forever now. Like that's just gone.
Yeah.
But they recorded it.
Yeah.
Then the second thing they recorded was it sounded like labored breathing.
Yeah, and then the heartbeat.
And no. They recorded the heartbeat of the dog. That the first official thing they sent up was a dog.
Yeah, the Laska or whatever, or something.
Yeah, they said they
dog.
found it in Moscow and put it in a spaceship and shot it up there. And they also said that it survived.
It survived
for like 6 days. It survived like its 3 orbits, and then 4 orbits, and then when it came back down, they euthanized him.
Yeah, but it like burned to death. Like that.
No, it froze to death in the capsule because the temperature stuff was broken.
Yeah, they definitely killed that dog.
Dead as fuck. And these two guys recorded its heartbeat because they were sending back like its heartbeat to know it was still alive.
Yeah.
And they recorded that. But this thing was just breathing. it was like, you know, like spaceship noises.
Yeah.
But you could hear like labored breathing, and their father was a doctor.
Yeah.
And they gave him they like played him the recording. He gave it to him, and he and other doctors like listened to it, and they said that it sounded like someone dying. They're like breathing their last breaths.
Jesus.
Like they were like, that sounds like someone who's struggling to get enough oxygen in their body.
Yeah, yeah.
And is dying. And so that was the second thing they recorded. Then the third thing they recorded was a woman's voice, which is even crazier.
This I've heard about, yeah.
Yeah, it's a woman's voice, and it starts with, it's on the frequency that they use to talk to their space stuff. Like, no one else used it. So this is the frequency, and it's like a woman, she like counts a bunch of numbers. She counts from 1 to 5, and then she says like 32, 47, and then she starts asking if anybody's there. Then someone responds to her, but you can't hear them, and she starts talking to them, and she says stuff like, all I can see is flames. I am hot. I am so hot. And then she's like, whatever they're asking her, she's like giving them, I guess, telemetry or something.
Yeah.
She's like reading off numbers, and then she just keeps going like, am I going to crash? I am so hot. Am I going to crash? Is this a problem? And then nothing.
Whew.
So like they thought that was someone re-entering the atmosphere and dying in the process.
Burning up, yeah.
And that's another recording, but none of this, they won't acknowledge any of it.
Oh, yeah.
So...
Because, the difference between the Soviet Union and America during the space race is that the Soviet Union space thing was all military, and NASA is not military. It's an independent, or it's a private organization. So... like you get some crazy shit when you have a very secretive communist government trying to...
Everything you do is perfect on the first try. We will send one man into space and it will work that first time.
Every time. Don't question us. Dude, yeah, it's...
But here's the wildest thing, though. Because you said in that thing where they were like, Vladimir Ilyushin supposedly went up before him.
Yeah.
He absolutely did.
Yeah. Dude,
so
he's like their pride and joy.
He won what... it's the equivalent of like being knighted in England. It's called the Hero of Russia Award or something like that. And he got it for like... So his dad designed... he designed like airplanes. His dad like owned some huge airplane manufacturer in Russia. And he didn't want to follow in his father's footsteps. So instead of designing planes, he became a test pilot. Vladimir Ilyushin. Yeah. He became a test pilot, and he became like the greatest test pilot of all time. He basically flew a plane in this almost space, which is why everybody was like, this is kind of hysterical. Because everything I listened to, he did all this stuff as a test pilot, and he like held, I don't know if he still does, but it was like the altitude record for flying in a plane and not killing yourself and all this stuff. And then when they started the space program, this is how fucked Russia was. They started the space program. International news reporters asked them questions like, hey, are you going to put Vladimir Ilyushin in that ship since he's your greatest pilot?
Yeah.
And because other people said that, they were like, nah, no, even though they did. They did it. They didn't want to say that they were doing what other people thought that they would do. So they were like, no, he's not part of it.
Absolutely not. And
they totally hit it. Like, they airbrushed people out of photos in their, like, official Kremlin documents. And all this stuff just to be like, no, we didn't do the obvious thing. We can send anybody up there. So he flew on this flight. What's his name? Khrushchev.
Yeah.
Khrushchev went to Vladimir Ilyushin's space flight that was not officially documented.
Yeah.
He went up. He was supposed to go 4 rotations. After his 4th orbit, it was either 4 or 17 orbits to land back in Russia properly.
Yeah.
He came down in the 3rd orbit.
Which was...
There was some sort of technical problem.
Yeah. Where
he also was unconscious during this whole thing, so they couldn't talk to him while it was happening. It crashed. So also Russia, I love them. Russia's so crazy. Russia was like, hey, we're going to shoot you into space. And when you come back, when you're falling back from space to Earth, around 10,000 feet, eject yourself. shoot yourself out of this flaming ball. Because we don't think you're going to survive if it just hits. Because it had to hit ground. Because they couldn't let it land in water because it was in Russia and they were like landlocked. So it had to land somewhere in like the butt fuck of nothing in Russia. Like just that huge wasteland of snow.
Yeah.
But it didn't. It landed in China.
Yeah.
He was unconscious. He didn't get out of he didn't eject himself. So he's still in there and he slammed in the ground. Like some Chinese village people found him.
And he didn't die.
No, he was alive. Yeah. They took him to their local authorities, who then took him, like, he just went up the chain, this, like, crippled Russian dude, like, went up the chain of command until the Chinese government was like, hey, Russia, we've got a guy that just fell out of the sky over here. And Russia didn't get him back for a year.
Yep, they kept him for a full year.
So he went up, failed.
Yes.
Khrushchev saw that happen, apparently was so pissed off about it that he went on vacation.
Yeah.
And he left. And then Korolev, the guy who was in charge of their space program, sent up Yuri Gagarin 5 days later without telling Khrushchev, because he was just like, if I fail, like, I don't know why. Like, I'm assuming he was just like, I got to get this done. Or, like, I'm going to be shipped off to Siberia or something. Yeah. Like, I don't know. But he sent him up.
Gulag,
5 days later, they had, like, a press conference announcing him 2 days before they sent him up, the Yuri Gagarin guy. And he was not even he finished flying school, but he was just that was his experience, was flying school.
Yeah.
He was just, apparently he was like a super communist. He was like super into the Communist Party, and he was like an attractive young man, which fed good to their like propaganda shit.
Yeah, yeah.
To be like, hey, look, we're going to send this young, strong, confident,
strapping young
communist up into the space, and he's going to do it. So he goes up, and he comes back, and it doesn't all fuck up, because I'm assuming they fixed whatever malfunctioned with him. So they were like, oh, we're good to send him up. But the guy who did all this work to figure out to get to that point was languishing in China, being held captive, quote unquote. Apparently they treated him very well.
Yeah.
But he was being held captive.
Yeah.
Like he couldn't come back. And they just sent somebody else up. And we're
that
like,
guy got all the credit.
That guy is like, hey, he's the first person in space. Lucian he never went up. He was never in this. That's when they started like airbrushing all the photos and being like, no, he was never. I mean, it was funny. There were all these conflicting things. They were like, oh no, he couldn't have been in the space program because he was in a car accident, or he couldn't have been in that. He couldn't have been on any space flight. He was in a car accident 2 weeks before that flight ever happened, and now he's in a coma. While he was being held in China, they were telling everybody he was in a coma from a car accident.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, who else is to say he
Who's
wasn't?
Yeah. Nobody.
Why the fuck not?
Dude, I mean, it's important.
But then they also, there was contradicting things where they released this thing about a car accident 2 weeks before the thing, but then they, no. The coma thing was second. The first was like, oh, he's in an accident. He was in no shape to go up.
Yeah, and then
then they were like,
coma.
oh, well, the accident was actually 2 months ago, and he's been in a coma the whole time.
Yeah,
like they just kept changing what they were saying about him.
It's important to note that like Russia at this time, they were winning. Like they beat America every step of the way, except to the moon.
They got the first person up there. They just didn't get to the moon first.
They just didn't get to the moon first. And it was really only who got to the moon first. That was the biggest thing. So this was scaring the shit. I mean, like, they could not appear weak. They had to appear.
Well, that's what's fucked up about it. Had they, like, let people know about what they did and failed, could have got to the moon faster, probably. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, everything, but it was like a stupid political thing of like, look at this propaganda poster. I love that propaganda poster.
Holy
shit, yes.
It's like Apollo with the hammer and sickle, like flying into space with like
a bunch of rockets.
5 like 50s style rockets. It's amazing. Like, yeah, they were leading the way. But so now we have these missing cosmonauts who potentially, like that SOS signal.
Possibly 3 people just shot into space with no real plane
with
to get
zero
back.
Return policy. It was so that's an interesting thing. Like, that's a real government conspiracy that is still active. Like, nobody.
Let me finish these guys.
Okay,
because
go ahead.
It gets even weirder because Yuri Gagarin like went around the world, got all this praise for being the first person in space. He never flew another plane.
No.
he became an alcoholic, and then he died mysteriously in a MiG plane test for like when they started
60s,
developing
right?
the MiG jets.
Yeah.
The MiG fighter jets. He died in one of their test runs, but his body was never found. They said they found a finger, and the person who did the investigation, do you know who it was?
No.
Vladimir Ilyushin was the person who was put in charge to figure out what happened to the guy who stole all of his fame from him.
That's awesome.
And his result was, we don't know. All we found was a finger.
Super dead now.
Yeah, he's totally dead.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, and apparently the Yuri Gagarin guy, once he became like an alcoholic, he like would say shit that the government was like, you can't do that. Like he would be, they thought it was embarrassing or damaging.
So they got rid of him.
So they
clearly
got rid of but and let the guy who he fucked over say it.
Yeah.
Like bury him.
Yeah.
Just bury him in obscurity.
That's how they paid him back. Here, you can go.
Well, I mean, he was like super famous anyway, Ilyushin.
Well, yeah,
regardless. Like he designed all these other planes. He won all those awards. Like he was still super famous when he came back from China. Oh, that was the other funny thing. So they sent up Gagarin 2 days or whatever, 5 days after Ilyushin came back and failed. Every country in the world sent them a congratulations except for China.
Oh, shit.
And China has subsequently sent them congratulations on every other space flight they've ever done.
Except for that one
because they knew that it wasn't true.
That's awesome. That's a cool little thing to note.
They purposely just ignored it to be like, are you sure that's the first guy in space? Because we got this guy
right here. And
it's fucking crazy, though.
He just fell out of the sky.
But if it wasn't for those guys recording stuff, you really would only get the Ilyushin Gagarin part of it at all,
Russian
and then
spin.
you wouldn't really understand that they were just shooting fucking random people
in space. Dude, I
just love that they grabbed the dog off the street, threw it in a capsule, and fired it into space. It's so good. Like, how do you expect them to care about people going up there?
Fire whatever into space.
Oh, and also, sorry.
Go ahead.
The Ilyushin didn't want to be a part of it at first because I set up dogs and other stuff. No one in the capsule controlled anything in the capsule.
You just were in it.
You were just in it. They were controlling it from Earth.
So that you're not really flying anything. You're just going to space.
Which lends strongly to the suggestion that they could have put anyone in those fucking things.
Yeah.
And just been like, well, we'll see if they come back. Like, they don't have to be talented. They don't have to know shit.
They have to be a communist, and that is just about the only thing we require out of these folks.
Oh, and also I saw footage of some of the old space cosmonaut tests they would do for stuff. Dude, one of them was just shooting you into the air with a fucking trebuchet, basically. For simulating G-force stuff, because they didn't have like giant centrifuge stuff like they do now, but it was like this big, basically, trebuchet that you fired people strapped to harnesses in it, and it would just shoot them into the air, and then you'd fall back down.
That's awesome.
"Quote unquote" safely.
It very safely.
Terrifying.
I'm sure it did. These guys were not really overly concerned with safety or human lives. Because it was all about the greater good.
Yeah, they just needed to present you with this magical, perfect thing that they managed to do on their first try. Don't ask anyone.
Ever. Or you'll have a MiG plane accident. Jeez, that's awesome. I thought I thought you were gonna say Vladimir Putin.
No.
I was like, holy shit.
No, they gave it to the guy.
That's good.
That's so funny, man. I don't know. That part of it was just like, that seems really kind of fucked. If you're trying to hide stuff, maybe don't do that.
Yeah.
If there's already people talking about exactly that, maybe don't
do that.
Involve the both of them in anything together ever.
Man, whatever.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The Russian government is amazing.
Yep. So there's lots of Russian people frozen in pods floating through space. At least 3, possibly more.
Yeah. Let's hope more.
I love it. I hope there's tons.
Just to get some. It's a real Major Tom thing, but like, you know, more Russian. All right. Moving on to the third and final topic, which persons. I believe is probably the most eerie and interesting.
Yes.
And this one is called, the Dyaltov Pass incident.
Dyaltov
Pass, comrade. Once again, a Russian situation, although the government theoretically had nothing to do with
this. With this one, however, we'll get to it.
So, from the Wikipedia, we have the Dyaltov Pass incident. Refers to the unsolved deaths of 9 ski hikers in the northern Ural Mountains in the Soviet Union, now Russia, between the 1st and 2nd of February in 1959. The experienced trekking group, who were all from the Ural Polytechnical Institute, had established a camp on the slopes of the Kolit Sial. Goddamn. Freaking Russian.
It's called Dead Mountain.
Yeah, it translates to like Mountain of the Dead.
Yeah.
In an area now named in honor of the group, Igor Dyaltov. During the night, something caused them to tear their way out of their tents and flee the campsite while inadequately dressed for heavy snowfall and sub-zero temperatures. After the group's bodies were discovered, an investigation by Soviet Union authorities determined that 6 had died of hypothermia, while the other 3 showed signs of physical trauma. One victim had a fractured skull. The other 2 had major chest fractures. I actually had read that the major chest fractures were the equivalent of being hit by a car.
Yeah.
They were insane. Additionally, another team member was missing her eyes and tongue. The investigation concluded that an unknown compelling force had caused the deaths. Numerous theories have been put forward to account for the unexplained deaths, including animal attacks, hypothermia, avalanche, infrasound-induced panic, military involvement, or some combination of these.
Well, there is a military research facility not far from there.
Yes. That's worth noting.
And also a nuclear, research facility as well.
I think.
Or no, that's what it is. So 2 of the guys, 2 of the people in the expedition, because one of the things that make people think crazy shit is the eyes and the tongue missing.
Yeah.
The fact that they didn't take anything with them, like jackets. Most of them. Some of them didn't. Some of them were clothes. Some of them were dressed to go outside, and some of them were barefoot.
They had nothing.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah. And these were not. It's worth noting. These are experienced ski trekkers. They were not people who were.
No.
They were They were going for. I think it was class 3, which was the highest you could go for ski trekking. They were very skilled at doing this. All of them. So they were not just
students mostly.
Yes, and then the leader was I think one of the instructors. Or something like that. So, Dyaltov.
2 of the guys. They said they found radiation levels in 2 of the people's clothes.
Yes, high radiation
levels. But both of those guys worked at nuclear facilities.
So it's entirely possible.
Yeah, they just had radiation levels from doing, probably because there's no safety regulations and working on nuclear stuff in the 50s in Russia. There's a high possibility those guys were just standing in rooms with the fucking uranium rods or something. You know what I mean?
I actually read that one of the okay, and finally, the radiation might be explained by the fact that their candles would have contained radioactive thorium. Candles back then, from the ones they were using, had a radioactive isotope. So if they were using a candle, that could have exposed them to radiation. Still weird.
But also they work.
Yeah.
Those 2, the clothes that were found on the 2 guys that work at a nuclear research facility.
Yeah, it'd be like finding cow blood all over a guy who works at a butcher's shop.
Yeah.
Well, this is clearly a clue.
My God.
Is it, though?
They battled some sort of monstrous cow out here and lost, apparently. Yeah, this one's crazy, man, because it was one big tent.
Yes.
And they had a stove and stuff in it.
Yes.
And it was an older tent in the 50s. It was made out of canvas. It's not made out of stuff we have now. It's really fucking thick.
Yeah.
And the way they closed, people were why did they cut a hole out of it?
To run it, like it seemed like to escape.
To escape from something. And the one thing I watched was this guy who gave all these very reasonable explanations for everything, where he was like, they were using this type of stove. They were getting ready for bed. Had they prepared the stove to be disassembled for sleep, he was thinking that, like, if some of the coals fell out of it as they moved it, because it was like, it had a flume and you had to take it apart so that you could go to bed in there and all that, and move it outside to let everything cool off or get the coals go out and all that. And he was saying, if there was a fire in there, the way those tents closed, because they were in like sub-degree weather, and it was like thick fucking canvas, where the flap was all these buttons that were under another flap.
Cutting
so
it
it was like really
faster.
hard to get it open quickly. So he was saying, if there was a fire in the tent, or something happened in the tent, the fastest way to get out would just be cut a hole and run the fuck out of there.
Now, it's also 2 of the members had burned hands.
Yes, they had burn marks on them, like something like that might have happened.
Yeah.
But also other people were saying that possibly that they burned their hands because
they made a fire.
All the bodies weren't found together. There was 2 dead bodies, 2 like undressed bodies put next to each other by a campfire.
Yeah.
Where presumably they all ran away. Well, that's the other thing. A lot of people were saying, like, the pictures they took of the tracks that they made coming from the campsite, from their tent to where this campsite was.
Yeah.
None of it looked hurried.
Like they just...
Like they were walking.
It was deliberate.
They were deliberately walking slowly down the mountain. They weren't running, but some of them didn't have fucking shoes.
Yeah, like, where's... Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Who's walking calmly down a fucking mountain with no shoes on?
It is... It is storming. Like, it is not a good night out. And these people just ran out into a storm and all died.
Oh, I also feel like we should point out the mountain's called Mountain of the Dead or Dead Mountain, not because of this.
No,
it was already called that because there was like a tribe of local, like they kept, I don't know what they are. I was trying to figure this out. Everything I said, they just said there was a local tribe of people that lived near the mountain.
Yeah.
And I don't know what those people were, but they named it Dead Mountain because there was you couldn't hunt on it. There was never animals on it.
Yes.
Like there was no vegetation, no edible vegetation or no plants on that mountain, so they called it Dead Mountain. Like it wasn't like there weren't. I just feel like conspiracy theory people hear, oh, Dead Mountain.
And, it must
and
be.
They're like, what is there? Yetis that live there? There are monsters that live there? Maybe aliens are there. Maybe it's not even a real fucking mountain. Like the amount of shit I heard about Dead Mountain, just based off of you not researching why it's called Dead Mountain, is completely crazy.
Discovery Channel Menk theory.
Oh no!
In 2014, Discovery Channel special Russian Yeti: The Killer Lives. Explored the theory that the Yeltov group was killed by a Menk or Russian Yeti. A Menk is what it's called. The show begins with the premise that the skiers' injuries were such that only a creature of superhuman strength could have caused them. The episode concluded with there being no evidence at all. That is what it says. I love that.
That's great.
So
well, wasn't one person found in a tree?
One person was found. There's a few at the bottom of a ravine.
Yes.
One of my favorite things about this is there were 10 of them.
One of them got sick.
One of them got sick just before they went in here. I mean, we're talking like 2 days.
On the train. No, it was like on the train going to the mountains. He got sick and just got back on the train and went home. And
he is the only one who lived. Everybody else has died in this weird way. That's got to be so weird for that guy.
Actually, there were 2 people that didn't go.
This says there were 10 people in the original and only 9.
There were 10 people that left. There were supposed to be 11 people.
And one person just didn't even go?
Apparently, he was hungover and missed the train. So that guy...
Yuri Yudin. He's the one who lived. And he died in 2013. So, of mysterious causes.
Oh, God!
It was the Yeti!
Dude, the Menk, it took him fucking 50 years to find him.
It's like Final Destination.
Yeah, it had to kill him. It was supposed to kill all those 10 people, and they had to hunt that guy down. It took him 50
the Menk.
years.
Yeah, man. Watch out for the Menk. Some of the other interesting things are infrasound, which is interesting. They did a test where there's a book that a guy named Donnie Eicher wrote called Dead Mountain, and the wind going around the Holachatl Mountain created a Kármán vortex street, which can produce infrasound, which causes panic attacks. So if, according to Icar's theory, if the infrasound generated by the wind as it passed over the top of the mountain was responsible for causing physical discomfort and mental distress in the hikers. Because of their panic, they were driven to leave the tent by whatever means necessary, fled down the slope, and by the time they were further down the hill, they would have been out of the infrasound's path, but they
fucking dying.
They were already like...
Oh, that makes sense because they found 2 of the bodies heading back to the tent.
Yeah.
That weren't with the other ones. Like, there were 2 that were found separate from each other, but they both were heading back up the mountain.
It says in the darkness they would have been unable to return to their shelter. The traumatic injuries suffered by 3 were likely the result of them falling over a ravine and hitting the rocks at the bottom, which would make sense.
And the woman with no tongue and eyes was found in a cave.
Yes.
Not far from where they found the 2 bodies that looked like they got in a car accident.
They think that like something just came along and ate them.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. But why not eat more? You know, like, I guess that is just the soft stuff, but, you know, you'd think that it would, like, there's a whole body there. You could eat
there
way
were
more.
There were some people that said there's, like, microbes that could have been in that cave that dissolved the soft tissue, like your tongue and eyes kind of thing. But it is weird as fuck.
So, one of the other theories was that they were killed by an avalanche, although that is... Like,
no,
they were like, there's avalanches don't happen in this area. They're like,
also,
where they were.
Their base camp was stupidly close to the tip.
Yeah.
Like, people were kind of like, when they found it, they were like, why did they do this so close to the top?
Yeah.
And the avalanche theory, like, I think it was something like you need at least like 300 feet at this angle or greater to cause an avalanche. And where they were from the top, the angle and the distance was not great enough to cause an avalanche at all.
Yeah.
Like, the mountain isn't steep enough to have itself cause avalanches.
It says that there's basically no way an avalanche could have happened in this area. Loads of other people have been here, and there was no avalanche. It just doesn't happen in this location.
But it doesn't make sense if people just fucking walked off the edge of something trying to climb down a mountain in the dark while they're being freaked out by infrasound.
It was
shit.
Aliens, dude. That's what it was.
That's the other thing, man. There's people, they talk about there might have been alien crafts.
They saw UFOs. There are people who
said they saw lights and shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? What do you... I don't know.
Yeah, it's...
You just say aliens because there's no...
One of the things, that they were attacked by the Mansi. That's that local tribe.
Oh, yeah.
Although the local tribesmen are super peaceful and don't just attack people. So they were like, there's no tracks of anyone approaching the tent. They just,
Yeah, that was the other thing. There's no tracks of something chasing them. Like, there was no evidence of anything following or being there with them.
Yeah.
Except the evidence of them moving around.
Man.
Actually, while I was researching this, a similar thing happened in America in, like, the 70s.
Where?
Somewhere in Washington. It's really kind of fucked up. It was 4 special needs people that played on a softball team together, and their like chaperone who was taking them to a softball game. They drove to the softball game. They were supposed to drive back, and for whatever reason, there's no reason, they can't explain why the car drove up. It was up this mountain on this road, empty, fully operational, nothing wrong, full of like half tank of gas, nothing wrong with it. Started up when they got to it. The car was just alone. Some guy found it up there and was like, I don't know what this is. Like, where are these people? And Christ, it was insane. They found 2 of them. Like, they found like the remains of 2 of them a couple miles away. And they've been eaten by like a bear. They found the guy who took them there way the fuck far away, like 18 miles away from the car.
Shit.
And then one of the special needs people his remains were found in a like storage container at an old like milling site where he managed to get inside and stayed alive for like 18 or 20 days eating weird shit he found in the room.
That's insane.
And then he died. But no one knows why they drove up the mountain, why they got out of the car, why the car was still operational, why the fuck did they walk like tens of miles away from the car if it was working.
Yeah.
Like they didn't take flashlights even though there were flashlights in the car. It's all this like similar kind of shit where they're like, these people just arrived in this place, something
And they went
forced
crazy.
insane, and they ran away until they were dead.
That's nuts. That's nuts.
Yeah.
I love that one. That's dark, but it's very interesting.
That one was super crazy just because of how far they walked.
Yeah.
I was like, why the fuck?
But they just keep leaving this
Like, if they walked-
safety.
You had a car that worked.
Damn it.
Why did you die in a storage container in the woods on the side of a hill?
I think the biggest takeaway from this episode is just remember where safe is.
Yeah, like, don't shoot yourself into space without a plan.
Yeah.
Don't climb mountains that might drive you insane.
Insanity Mountains.
Insanity
Steer
Mountain.
clear. Steer clear of a mountain called Mountain of the Dead.
Yeah, and if you work alone on a lighthouse for like a month at a time,
don't
tether yourself to
get
something.
another job.
Yeah, get another fucking job, yeah.
Stop living in the 1900s.
Get a time capsule. Fucking freeze yourself.
Oh boy. All right. So that's it for that. Another one down. Another one in the bag. But
out of all three of those, only one of them is
really
mysterious.
interesting.
Yeah, the Alta Pass. Well, I think the cosmonaut thing's interesting.
Well, I mean,
but you can't research it further because they
will never ever.
release
They'll
these documents.
obfuscate the.
Yeah, we never did anything wrong.
Everything is fine. Shut up. Go test that MiG
but
for us.
the Alta one, is like. I mean, I don't know what could happen,
dude.
If noise drove people that insane, but I guess if it's driving you nuts,
you don't,
and then you walk down 5 miles with no shoes on and then regain your sanity, you're pretty fucked.
You're like, well,
you're done.
This is all. We're dead now. There's no way out.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Maybe it made them trip balls or something, and the fire in the tent freaked them all out. I don't know. Anyway,
who knows? All right.
From one unanswered question to another.
And now, guys, we're gonna. It's the continuing adventures of
time to launch out
of Pee-Pee Squelly.
This is us launching you into space.
Welcome to the ongoing, the ongoing troubles of the goose person.
Yes.
So, as you may recall, last time the person had some issues with some geese. The
locals
bloggers the bloggers
bloggers
abusing vehicles, threats of violence.
They're blogging nature, and that's a problem.
So now we've got a new entry.
Here we go.
Straight from Pee-Pee Squelly's.
Oh, I asked him. I was like, you didn't send us any responses. Did you not respond? He was like, oh, fuck no, I never respond.
That's awesome. Oh, I love that. All right. I emailed a couple weeks ago about the geese here and the laying of eggs, etc., and how this community has a deep disrespect for life and how they attack people, animals, and the entire environment. On the last day before spring break here, and walking back on Mid-Rivers Mall Drive, across from economic development, there is a huge piece of land. Open land, and a skunk started downhill towards Mid-Rivers Mall Drive. I stopped and said, go back. The skunk...
You beast!
Dude, I love this. The skunk rerouted itself that day. The skunk, from my perspective, all in caps, was disoriented. Being a nocturnal animal, and it was like 3:30 p.m., totally out of its element at that time. The skunk was missing fur in places, really roughed up. Additionally, I will not use the public library system as a result of all the violence and their misuse of technology. If I'm talking like that, it's because it is all in caps. They have locked up these public computers, and it is a public institution.
That sounds like the people at the library told her to get the fuck out of here because she was doing weird shit on the internet.
Weird shit, yeah. Would you please see if you can determine where these blogs are coming from? And that they aim at my personal space. And around this town that supports violence, sexually explicit information towards people, so that others...
She talks like a gang stalker person.
Oh, dude, totally.
Yeah,
About
that's awesome.
Geese and blogging.
Yeah, that's so good. I just love that disjointed, like, these are just words in a row, and they mean something to me, but they mean nothing to anyone else. They're just words.
Oh, my God. So,
information violence acts.
Support violence, sexually explicit information towards people so that others have to take responsibility for the people that blog.
So wait, is she like? I'm confused now. Is she like seeing? Is she reading like local blogs?
I don't know. Like, I'm not sure if she understands what a blog is.
Yeah,
it seems like she thinks it's like a weaponized
or does she
form
just
of
see
information.
someone on their phone?
They're
thinks,
blogging.
Oh, they're blogging.
They got to be blogging.
Good God.
Thanks, NASA. and then parenthetically, I am the wife to a former employee. I've sent emails directly to them many times to your main website asking for support in the constant cyberings, stoppings toward my life.
I'm being constantly cybering.
I forward all this info to the FBI, to NORAD, wife of a former employee.
God.
That's where it ends. So this woman is sending information to NORAD.
Dude, they need to know
about the geese in this area.
Track the geese.
And the endless blogging. These bloggers, god damn them.
I want to talk to this woman. I
just
don't understand what she means by blogging. She clearly
and
has a problem with the internet in general.
She sometimes says
But
blog
she's
with 2
sending
G's
these
and sometimes says blog like blog.
Oh.
So it's like she knows what they are but doesn't fully grasp what their purpose is. So it's I don't know. She's a winner, man.
This is really hard to like figure out.
Yeah,
what is she actually mad about?
Where is she coming from, and why is she this upset about, like, a skunk that is out at 3:30 p.m.?
I would give any amount of money to have like a fly on the wall perspective of that woman yelling at a skunk.
Get out of here!
Get out of here!
No!
Be gone!
This isn't for you!
You'll be blocked to death! Run away! I wish he looked roughed up. Like, I wish he blamed that on bloggers. He looked like he had been blogged 5 or 6 times today
just
already.
Endless blogging to this poor, innocent skunk. Oh, man, I love this woman. This woman's awesome.
I like that she's married to someone who used to work at NASA.
Yeah. Wait, we've said NASA a few times.
Yeah.
Well, it's in the letter.
It's in the letter.
So that
But she said she was married to somebody who worked there. Why isn't she talking to him? Are they still married?
Yeah.
Did he divorce her?
Ooh.
Does he still work there?
There's a lot of
he's
questions.
Just not answering her emails.
I wish we could know this woman's email and we could blog at her, you know? Although I feel like it might harm her.
I'd send her an email every day. There's just a video of like a bug or a dog or a cat.
Every time she opens her email, just screaming.
No,
it burns.
They blocked.
They
blocked another bird.
I've got 3rd-degree blogs all over my body.
Oh my God! I want to be arrested for 1st-degree blogging by this woman.
The blog slaughter, man. You just got.
I hope someday we figure out what she's mad about.
Well, there are plenty more entries in the geese ladies, crisis. Well, sorry if you lost us there for a second. We
disappeared off the face of the earth. I think we might have been kidnapped. I don't know.
I definitely heard some Russian voices whispered in the wind at us. We were on like an island.
I heard Russian voices in the wind off a Scottish island that was flying through space.
It was a very intense experience, reserved only for agents of truth, I believe.
I've never been ripped off the face of the earth like that before.
Pretty
you ever
wild.
See The Forgotten? It was a lot like that.
It was. Just boom! Like rubber banded into space. And that's just our lives.
Yeah, this is what we have to deal with.
This is what we've chosen.
Yeah.
So for the benefit of you guys, honestly, we're not. I mean, I don't enjoy going to weird, void areas between realities.
No, it's not fun.
It's not.
Well, it's not fun. It's just not.
It's inconvenient.
Yes.
I got things to do today.
It's a little disrespectful.
It is, honestly.
Just ask me.
They are assholes.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's it. We're going to be signing off now. I have been Bob.
I've been Matt.
Have an enlightened day.
You have just listened to They Know, a pseudo-educational podcast about pseudo-science and conspiracy theories, available only on Grunt. Questions, complaints, conspiracy theories, and other truths can be posted to facebook.com/theyknowpodcast. Trust no one, except us, of course.